Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're subscribed anywhere you get podcasts and follow me on socials at MLU Pod. You can also support My Little Underground for as little as $1 a month. Link is in the description and on peteraradio.com. Today on the show, we have Joe Trainor from the group Wildhoney, and he has another group, Dummy, with some new EPs out, and he sheds some light on an upcoming LP, obscure shoegaze, his blog, Tone Bursting, starting a tape label with his husband, and so much more right here on My Little Underground. All right, let's get ready to talk about some indie rockness. If you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, before I ask you about some dummy stuff, which is the reason why I brought you on today, I got to poke some holes at you about Wildhoney, because you guys have been a little MIA over the last couple months or so. And the last thing I've heard from you was the Naive Castle single, which was part of the Slumberland Records SLR30 series. So what's going on? You guys have anything new coming out? I know you're working on LP2, but what's the deal?
I mean, I guess we're in a deep state of hibernation. We all live in different cities. We're not actively working on anything at this point. So that's what's going on with Wildhoney.
Didn't all of you guys move to LA?
No, Alan, myself, and Nathan from Wildhoney moved to LA. Zach still lives in Baltimore, and Lauren lives in Portland.
Wow, you guys are really taking on this long distance relationship. That's that's something. All right. So yeah. No LP2 at this point. You guys are just all kind of just taking it easy at this point.
All more or less moved on with our lives at this point. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
That's not to say never, but I couldn't say.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, just think about everything that's going on now. It's like that's probably not the top of mind to kind of get back to, because I'm assuming that you guys want to, if you guys are going to come back to do anything, you're going to want to, play shows and tour and all that stuff. So I guess right now is not the best time to kind of restart it. Is that fair to say?
I mean, in all honesty, there just isn't. I think between the five of us, there just really isn't that much of an interest to do it at this point. I'm not I'm just not that. I feel like I'm kind of like past that band at this point, if that makes any sense. But that's just, I think everyone, it took a lot, towards the end, it took a lot out of us, psychologically, emotionally. And I think it stopped being kind of like a source of joy and more of like the pressure that came with like a bunch of like people saying like, oh, you're going to like do this, and this. And then kind of like, I don't know, just losing the, passion for it.
Well, I will say like, I still enjoy Wildhoney, and the last time I saw you guys, it was at St. Vitus a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. You played with Beverly, and I forgot who else was on that bill. But it was a good time. Yeah. And you guys did look tired because you did travel, but you did put on a hell of a show. It was
Thank you.
It was quite the experience.
That was the night I met Joe from Peel Dream Magazine. That was the first time I had met him.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And I know it's been 5 years at this point since your first album, Sleep Through It. So how have you guys felt that you've progressed since then? And I still listen to the album. It's great.
Well, I guess like over from that to now, I mean, the stuff we had written kind of for the second LP, like it was starting to sort of crystallize a little bit, because we just spent so much time writing and kind of, I don't know, digging, like mining for something that felt good and inspiring. and I don't know. I feel like what Dummy is now is kind of like what maybe Wildhoney would have gone in that direction a little bit more. Probably, I mean, definitely towards the end, Lauren and I were like really inspired by like bossa nova and more like new age and stuff like that. So but at the same time, I still really like live. I hated playing that sort of stuff. I liked playing like the really aggressive, loud stuff. So there was still some stuff like that also on the plate. But I don't know. I personally just got extremely over indie pop and like that world, I guess, in a lot of ways. And we from playing with bands like Tony Molina and Bug and uh, bands like that, and playing with like more like hardcore bands towards the end. We played with like Trapped Under Ice and Page 99, like played a bunch of really weird shows, and I was just like, I just want to be a loud punk band again, kind of like where it was in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, Night Castle was kind of a song that felt like the end of that kind of sound for Wildhoney, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to move on from this kind of jangly thing and do something either extremely like chill and like tropicalia, bossa nova, new age kind of stuff, but then also on the flip side do kind of revert back to being super noisy and aggressive and fast.
Well, yeah, I will say from Your Face Sideways, Slow Motion is still a song that's like on repeat, especially the bass line on it. Just thought I'd let you know that. And it's still stuff I still kind of go back to, even though I'm loving what Dummy is doing. So how much of Dummy still has a little bit of Wildhoney in it? Like how many members from Wildhoney are also in Dummy?
Right now, well, Alan isn't in the band anymore. In Dummy, he is working on like a career with. He has like what's he? I'm trying to think of electrician. Yeah, he's working on joining a union, and I think he just kind of got burnt out on music in general after he and I have been playing in bands together for I don't know, like over a decade. We played before Wildhoney. We played in like a hardcore band together, and that toured a bunch and did a bunch of stuff. And I think Alan just got burnt out. But right now, it's myself and Nathan from Wildhoney, and then my husband plays drums in Dummy, and our friend Emma plays like organ and keys and sings.
When did you start Dummy officially? Was it during the recording process for LP2 for Wildhoney or what?
I started writing some songs during, like, right before we all moved to LA that felt like a different kind of thing. Um, and then when we got here, I mean, I knew like Alan, Nathan, and I were gonna play music together. It just took a little while to like crystallize what we wanted it to sound like. And then once Alex joined, about 8 or 9 months into the band after the previous drummer didn't work out, that really we coalesced into like the really focused unit we are now.
Right, and a lot of your sound is kind of reminiscent of a lot of like that motoric 4/4 beat pattern that stuff like Velvet Underground, Stereo Lab, etc. So
For
when do
sure.
you when do you see like when you're making this music and you're hearing it back? Is there any point where you feel like, wow, we're really wearing our influences on our sleeves? And if you do notice that, how you kind of combat that so that you can stick out as a unique
Uh,
entity?
hmm, that's an interesting question. I, I mean, I think like, yeah, it's not obviously like we like the Velvet Underground and Stereo Lab and like My Bloody Valentine. I think like you know those sort of things are obvious, I guess, because but the thing is the things we're pulling from are the same things that like Stereo Lab and MBV are pulling from, like no like Noi and Krautrock and Velvet Underground and Silver Apples and stuff like that. So I think like even though yeah we definitely like I can understand how people might perceive it as being wearing our influences on our sleeve. I think it's just we're wearing the same influences that they were wearing on their sleeves. Once you hear like if you hear Noi or you hear like Francois Hardy or like Silver Apples or like Suicide, like you're like, oh, that's where like Stereolab got it. Like you see that they were like, there's parts of Stereolab songs where you're like they're straight up ripping off like Noi, which is I have no qualms about like lots of great bands like straight up rip off other people's stuff and then make it their own in whatever way. And when you listen to like MBV, their early stuff, they were just like ripping off Jesus and Mary Chain and then the Cramps and Birthday Party, and then later they were super influenced by like Dinosaur Jr. and Sonic Youth and stuff like that. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you listen to like Loveless and like their very very first stuff from like 1985, it's totally different. You hear more Cocteau Twins later on than you do like Mary Chain or even like Dinosaur Jr. or Sonic Youth or any kind of like that no wave esque stuff. So everybody's wearing the same sweater.
Yeah,
if you're wearing your influences on your sleeves, they're all wearing the same exact thing. So it's not really the biggest problem. But if you listen to a lot of like stuff on like Spotify playlist, or if you're in radio, like like myself, you're gonna hear a lot of things that's like, okay, you're just trying to sound like this person so you can be on the radio as well. I'm not saying Dummy is like that at all, but it's like you're not trying to be inspired, you're just trying to mimic and just be a part of something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people, at least like with Spotify and the radio, their first instinct is capital, not artistic at this point. So and that's social capital and monetary capital. So yeah, I mean, everything like in terms of like indie rock right now, a lot of like the stuff that is popular is very like homogenized and polished, and kind of like doesn't really take any risks in terms of like recording qualities or songwriting or pulling from influences that are more leftist. I mean, all the bands you mentioned like Sonic Youth and MBB, like they were just as much like avant-garde sounding bands as they were pop bands.
Have you seen Beautiful Noise?
Yes, I saw it a while ago. I think there was like a moment where a bunch of really cool documentaries, like the Creation one, the Sarah Records one, and then that one all were kind of like, I want to say within the same like few years.
There was a Creation Records documentary?
Yeah, I think it. I don't know if it's still on Amazon, but it used to be. I mean, you can definitely torrent it.
Yeah. All right. That's cool because I know there was a lot of like Creation Record stuff in Beautiful Noise as well, but I think it's interesting that they have their own documentary. But I thought Beautiful Noise is interesting because it, at least for me, it put me in perspective as to where this kind of stuff came from. And when they brought up Cocteau Twins, I'm like, who is this band? And then when you hear Elizabeth Fraser, I'm like, okay, yep, that's where it comes from. That's it right there. So I think it's important if people are trying to trying to understand what like the quote unquote shoegaze sound is. I think that's an important documentary to watch to get some perspective on it. So tell me about the recording process of Dummy. I know you did it in your practice space. So when I'm listening to the music, I'm just picturing all of you in one space, just kind of creating this kind of almost like an orchestral setup, and everyone has their part and they're playing their part, and it's just unique amalgamation that kind of forms when you're playing. Hello?
Sorry, for some reason my mic went dead. Sorry. What I said. Sorry. The Cocteau Twins. What's important to note about them is that they were a punk band. Like they came from the punk world, and I think like that's something that certainly gets lost a lot with like the shoegaze thing. Is like it started like Jesus and Mary Chain, Cocteau Twins, like in MBV with their early stuff. They're punk bands, and same with like Velvet Underground. Like they were a punk band. They're like the first punk band, and I think like that's the thing that really gets lost in like indie music, I guess, in a way, or and specifically like shoegaze. Like that it comes from a very like punk place. But anyway, your question about the recording process for Dummy, it was a learning curve. We basically we had a really weird specific way of doing it. Basically, we had a drum machine, and then we record the whole song to a drum machine, and then each individual person would record their part, and then Alex afterwards would take that recording and then just record it to the drum machine, and then we would take out the drum machine. So it was we did it probably in like the weirdest possible way you could record something yourself. And because Alex was still kind of learning how to play drums at that point. He had only been playing drums on the recordings. I guess he had only been playing drums for like 3 or 4 months. So like, he was still like, we practiced those songs over and over and over until like he had like a metronome, like he had headphones and would wear a metronome and have a metronome going on in his headphones while we practiced, and we just pounded the songs into the ground. And then once we recorded them, Alex is used to like listening to a metronome, which is a drum machine essentially, is a metronome. And yeah, we just built on top of every song was just building, and some songs were easier than others. And after all the recording was done, we took it to our friend Juju and mixed it all with him. And he was in that band Froth that Wildhoney toured with.
Tell me about the video for Avant-Garde Gas Station that Courtney Garvin of the Courtneys helped direct. So, and I think that the video definitely captured Dummy's essence, because when I'm watching the video, I'm thinking, this is what I'm seeing when I'm listening to Dummy. I see a whole lot of colors flashing, and it's very colorful, and it's like a rainbow of sorts. So did Courtney have full direction for this, or did you have a hand in it?
The basic idea, basically I saw some stuff she does animation for a living. That's her like real job. And I loved her animation, and she did she threw out a couple like little like GIFs that were just like these looped animations that she made. And I thought like it would be really cool to have her do something for us. And we wanted every song on the EP to have a different like visualizer or like video. And we're almost there. We have to do one for Slacker Mask, and then it'll be complete. But yeah, I was just like, I have an idea of basically like a kind of like a diagonal looking down at a road and seeing the passing of the road. And that was it was like the only idea I gave her. And then she did the rest of it, and she did a great job. I love what she did.
If you asked me to direct the video, that's what I would have come up with too. Because that's exactly what I see when I'm listening to it.
That's awesome. I'm glad that that comes through, because I feel forward motion is definitely like the biggest proponent, I guess. Propulsion and movement is like a huge part of Dummy. It's just like constantly moving.
What about folk song? Folk song is very static. It doesn't move as much.
Yeah. That song, I don't even remember like the kind of. I think we had a different. We had a different song that we were going to put on it, but I was like, I don't want to. It was like a Wildhoney song that we kind of moved over to Dummy. That eventually I was just like, I don't want to use it. Let's just I wanted Emma to have another song to like that she led on the recording, and Alex and I have been listening to a ton of folk, and I've never been able to kind of like express that side of me in a band, I guess, and I wanted to write this really minimal thing. And then Emma, I was like, here's the song, here's kind of like the inspiration, which was specifically Linda Perhacs, this album Parallelograms. And I was just like, I wanted to kind of have like this vibe. And with Dummy, I don't think we're particularly concerned with like, not bouncing around a bunch with like what, our influences are. Because there's like, we have the Velvet Underground cluster krautrock thing. but then we also, hugely influenced by folk music and new age and experimental electronic music, and all those things kind of like come together to like form our thing.
So tell me about some of the new Dummy tunes, like songs like Pool Party and Prime Mover. It seems to me like the first EP was very brighter, and these new songs are very somber. Did you guys get like more depressed along the way, or what?
I mean, I guess all the songs were kind of written and recorded over the last 6 months. So I guess reality seeped in. More so, the first one, yeah, is like very like there's like this hopeful anxiety to it. And all those songs were written right when we moved to LA, so we're like very excited and like so it has like this like nervous energy, I guess. And the new ones are more, I guess, yeah. The Pull Dizzy is definitely like the most reminiscent, I guess, of the first EP. And Prime Mover is definitely kind of like, I guess, more of like the future of Dummy in a weird way. But yeah, I mean, and I think all of us are depressed and feeling crazy about like, all the horse shit that's happening in the world. I mean, everything with like police brutality and the Republican Party and fascism being on the rise and the pandemic, which everyone seems to feel like is, over, but it's not at all. And it's also depressing because, the thing that we love doing the most, which is playing shows, we're literally going to be, that's like the last thing that we'll be able to come back to, like after everything's said and done. Like, so we're just, the prospect of not playing shows for even longer is, soul crushing because that's the thing we love doing. But also, over the course of the 6 months, we've demoed out a good portion of like a dummy LP, which I think is, it's kind of a mixture of like the first EP and like the new stuff. There's a balance. I think, blending more of like the avant-garde influences with like the noisy pop stuff. But the EP that we're about to put out is it's pretty different from the first EP in a sense. It's more, I guess, the last track, Touch the Chimes. It's like it's in that vein more, I guess.
I like that direction though. It keeps me waiting till the end. Like
Yeah.
it rewards you for listening to it out the whole thing. You
Yeah.
see all the layers kind of come out, and there's a lot going on in the best way possible. So very excited to see the future of Dummy. So let me talk to you about Tone Bursting, your Tone Bursting blog. So what inspired you to do this?
Well, what inspired it? Well, Alex and I had kind of talked about making a blog for a long time. And then this website called Recommended Listen, he like posted something on Twitter being like, I'm thinking about taking on writers. If anyone's interested, message me. And I was like, I sent him a message, and then he mulled it over, and I guess he decided to kind of just stay him doing it himself. But then I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll just do it because I'm literally doing nothing else. I haven't worked since March, and I just want to write about music that most people don't, know about, or just just introducing things that I find to be really good and inspiring that aren't necessarily like the same, stuff that gets, when people are like retrospective kind of like writing where people are writing about older artists that didn't get their due. So I was just like, I decided to do that, or bands that like I love that are kind of contemporary to Dummy and Wildhoney to some degree, because like one of the bands, Big Hush, they were like probably like Wildhoney's like buddy band, and I love that band, and like I'm not gonna say no one knows who that band is, but a lot of people don't know who that band is, and they're incredible. They're just like they're probably my favorite shoegaze quote unquote band that we ever played with, aside from this band from Wisconsin called Technicolor Teeth, who were also fantastic.
and a lot of your blog covers a lot of, more on the obscure side of music, which is kind of what I'm about, and especially for regarding like a lot of shoegazing music, which I happen to love so much. One particular group that you put me onto via your blog was Aspidistra. So how did you find out about this group? I love it.
Yeah, they're incredible, and I guess Alex and I really want to start. I think I say in the thing, Alex and I want to start a tape reissue label, and like I've been trying to like get in contact with them because I want to put out their 3 7 inches on a tape and like push it to the world more. But I think deep like I guess when Wildhoney was first starting, I was like, or maybe before Wildhoney started, I can't remember, but I was like, it was when blogs and like, MediaFire links were still working and RapidShare links were still working.
MediaFire links. Wow.
And I just, I was scouring the internet for like unknown shoegaze bands because I was always hungry for it. But I was always hungry for a certain kind. I don't really. I'm less into like the slow, more like I guess post rocky, like slow dive influenced bands. Even though I like slow dive, I'm more into like the noisy, fast, in your face, like feedback stuff. And I don't know. I just came across them out of nowhere, and I downloaded the 2 7 inches that are easy to find, and I just loved it, and I've just held on to that band. And anytime someone talks about shoegaze and unknown bands, I'm like, listen to this band. This band rules. And like, they're actually a really huge influence on Dummy too, especially the drumming. The drumming of that of Aspidistra has like this very specific thing, and I love it. And it doesn't like it keeps everything. The drums just allow everything else to sound fucked up and noisy and like and I don't know. Yeah, that band's great. They're underrated, underheard, and hopefully one day I will get in contact with someone in that band and they'll send me all their stuff and I can put out a tape of it and more people will hear it. That's a huge goal. Yeah, they're just fantastic. I wish more shoegaze bands were like that band.
So what else do you know about them? Where are they from? Because their stuff kind of sounds like very 1992, but it's hard to tell like what decade they're actually from. Because they can be from, they could have put out that music like last year or so, because there's a lot of bands that are inspired by this sound.
Yeah, as far as I think like all those records came out like 90 between 90 and 92, and they only have the 3 7 inches, and two of them were on Fluff Records, and then I can't remember the other label that put out the other 7 inch, but I don't know much about them, honestly. There's like no information aside from like I talked to the guy who runs Fluff Records on Discogs, trying to find their contact, and he's trying to find it for me currently, trying to find one of them to talk to. But yeah, I mean, there's like I knew nothing about them, and that's another reason I'd love to do the reissue tape, because I would love to like have some sort of like liner notes in there where they talk about their band, because it's they're kind of mysterious, and a lot of the bands on that label, Fluff, which I recommend looking. There's a band called The Lavender Faction that's extremely good too. That is like kind of similar. They're kind of more like swirlies they're super bendy guitar, like more like that kind of. I don't know, like the swirlies thing where it's like it's more like bendy guitar stuff and less like pure noise. But like they're really an excellent band too. There's a lot of labels like that from England, because that is an English label. They're an English band. Like Fluff Records and Wurlitzer Jukebox, like those, like these really small labels that put out these really great like bands that no one's ever heard.
Have you ever heard of the band The Velt?
The Velt, yes. Are they American band?
Yeah, I think they're from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I feel like I've heard a song or two by them. And I feel like it was recently too, but I'm not 100% sure.
They're interesting to me because I didn't realize this until like a few months ago, but like a lot of like black artists have had a hand in a lot of the progression of the shoegazing noise pop sound and a bit of like the early Britpop stuff.
Mhm.
This band, the Velt, they had some trouble with labels because they wanted to make them sound like Lenny Kravitz or Living Color. They wanted to like pigeonhole them, which is the story of a lot of black artists that don't
Yeah.
do quote unquote urban music. So and then like maybe a few years after the first album came out, here comes Oasis, and they're the biggest band in the world, and they
Yeah.
kind of have I think Oasis kind of has like a more accessible version of like the Velt sound. So
Mm.
I think it's important that blogs like yours and podcasts like mine kind of shine the light on the obscure,
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
we know that okay, this is where a lot of this stuff that's super popular probably comes from.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Are you a
I think
fan of? Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought.
Do you know Sunny Day in Glasgow?
Yeah, the Philadelphia band.
Hmm.
Yeah, I never was super into them. They're a little too I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're I think like in terms of production, they're a great band. But yeah, they were a little more not on the side. That's not really my like I definitely prefer like the more propulsive, like noisy stuff. Um but like yeah, they were never a band I was super into.
To me, I think they have a lot of. They're more like the pop side, but I kind of like how they mix. Like they have some like noisy moments, and they kind
Hmm.
of play that very well with their pop ambiance, which I love. But what about? Let me see. What about the history of apple pie? Do you remember hearing about them?
Oh God, I feel like I just saw that name pop up recently, and I don't remember why, but I haven't listened to them. No.
Yeah, they're interesting. They kind of have like a noisy undertone with some more like pop influences. More of the pop comes out than the noisy influences, but
Sure.
they're another one of those bands that had like two albums and they disappeared and they broke up silently and they kind of floated into obscurity. But I like that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely do too. There's yeah, I mean, I definitely would recommend the Lavender Faction for you to check out. They're very
yeah,
good. Yeah, like yeah, the shoegaze is such the genre itself. Like for me, yeah, I just like the more I like it to have the pop element. Like I think like Aspidistra is like this perfect mixture of like being poppy and catchy, but still being absolutely blown out and like gnarly sounding and like not the more like inward. I think like the more emotional stuff like side of that I'm not super into, but like yeah, the super just aggressive in your face. That's why I love like Flying Saucer Attack. Like their first record is just like basically like listening to sheet metal with like these like teeny little pop songs underneath of it. Like it's they put you so far, they hold you so far at like a distance. They're like almost saying like don't like it. And I like that. I like that it's like abrasive and like confrontational. And I mean that's MBV was undoubtedly confrontational band like in terms of volume and like noise. And that's like the same with like early Dinosaur Jr. and like Sonic Youth and like Husker Du. And like it was just like so noisy and so confrontational. And that's what and the same with like Velvet Underground or like any of the like that sort of stuff. Just like confrontation. I like confrontation, like sonically speaking. Like I think like in the future, like dummy recordings, I think will push that element more, like the sonic, like being sonically confrontational, um, with also being lighter and like quieter and more new age or whatever ambient. So yeah.
well, I live next to a big airport. I live next to JFK, so I guess I always hear planes flying over me. So I guess that kind of like warmed me up to kind of be prepared for My Bloody Valentine. I think that's why I like them so much because I'm so used to planes flying over me. I'm so used to that loud roar. So
Yeah.
just kind of just, I guess I have a soft spot for them being a New Yorker and being close to a lot of noise anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like the psychologically, or your environment undoubtedly affects your like what brings you pleasure in terms of like music and art and stuff like that.
What about Parakeet? Do you know them?
Nope. Never.
Oh, you would like them. They're more on the noisy side. They do have a lot of like they have lots of melody, but it's very the underbelly, the foundation of it is very noisy. And yeah, I think you'd dig them. They only have one album and a few EPs, but they're still incredible.
You should absolutely send all the stuff you're recommending in the DMs.
I will. I definitely will. I did. I sent you something today. I sent you a C-Fang.
C-Fang, yeah. I had heard that Motorcycle 7-inch or like before. I don't remember when or why, but I like immediately recognized the artwork. I just a lot of are they from Russia?
No, they're from Florida.
Oh, they're from Florida. I misread something on their thing. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna check that out later.
Mm-hmm. So, how far along are you and your husband getting into this cassette label? Like, is the process moving along, or you guys are at a standstill, or what's the happening over there?
We are just nothing until we get in contact with someone in that band. Nothing's happening. There's another on my blog. I talk about Harry Case, who is the other like kind of like our goals are like Aspidistra and that bit and Harry Case, and Harry Case makes like this kind of electronic, like I don't know, it's like electronic, I don't know, elevator-y, new age influenced kind of, I don't know, pop. It's a really bizarre record. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. It's so good. And I actually have I have like his sister's contact information because he's passed away a couple years ago, and it was such a funny. I found I Google searched like his name, and I found an article, and then I found the guy who wrote the article. I tweeted at him, and then he was like, I was like, because he wrote an article when he died, and I was like, do you have anyone's contact information for this guy? And he's like, I do have his sister's, but apparently a bunch of people have tried to reissue his stuff, and they've never been able to work anything out. So I'm, if we are able to like reissue this on tape, I'll be so stoked. Because it's funny because it's like kind of the complete opposite of the other thing, and it's this really beautiful record of, I don't know, I love that record. It's equally as fantastic as the Aspidistra stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a big tape guy. I just got the new Run the Jewels album on cassette, so
they put that out on tape. That's sick.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I can't wait to hear it. It's gonna blow my speakers out, but I cannot.
Yeah, I'm Alex and myself and Nathan. We all live together, and we have our tape collection is insane. Like we have so many tapes, and over the course of like the quarantine with like Bandcamp Friday, has definitely gotten a bunch of tapes on those days to help out artists.
Yeah, and the first Dummy EP kind of sold out quickly on tape, right? You still have some or no?
We Friday Pop Week just put up another 100. The first run went really quickly, which was surprising to us. Yeah, there's a new batch of them up, and then the other EP. When is this? Yeah, depending on when this will come out on Halloween. Okay, so by that time, the EP will have been announced. The EP is coming out November 6th on this label from Chicago called Born Yesterday. So I mean, I can talk about the EP, I guess, if it's coming out then, because it'll already be announced and everything. If you want to talk, I felt like cagey about talking about it a little bit, just because I didn't know when this was coming out, and I didn't want to step on Born Yesterday's toes.
Yeah, and I already asked you about the two songs that you sent me, right? So I'm assuming those two will be on there. So
those two will be on there, plus like 4 or 5 other songs. And like I said, most of it's like very, like the 2 songs that I sent you, there's like one other song that's like vocal forward, like those songs. And then the rest of it's very much experimental, like electronic, ambient, new age stuff that we all like. everyone contributed kind of like, it's all like these really weird experiments we did at home. And it was all recorded on an iPhone and GarageBand. None of it was recorded in a studio except for Pull Dizzy does have it. Like the guy who mixed the first EP, he mixed this one too. And he did drums and bass on Pull Dizzy. He recorded those and Alex played them.
I mean, the songs sound great, even if you just did it on your iPhone. They sound really, really good. I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I think literally all of them is like taking this old iPhone, we put it in front of an amp and just recorded it. And it's all of it went through one amp. This PV Rage that we have, this little teeny solid state amp. And all of it was recorded at home. It is surprising.
The second EP is going to be called Dummy. It's also self-titled, or
EP2.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. The LP will have an actual title for it.
Oh, there's an LP coming. When is that? Are you still working on that, or?
We've demoed a lot of it, but we haven't all the money that we're trying to like accrue with like Bandcamp sales is going towards recording that ourselves, because we don't want we want to record it ourselves, do it our own way, and basically we haven't practiced since March, and we have to get a new bass player because Alan had left. But yeah, once we start practicing again, it'll only be a matter of time. Hopefully, we'll start recording it piece by piece. And yeah, I mean that the LP stuff is more. All that stuff was written with Alex. Like the first Dummy EP, a lot of that stuff was written before Alex joined the band. So like Alex has had a huge hand in the songwriting. So I feel like the new one will be, I guess, like the influences will be like less obvious on their sleeve than they were before. Maybe I think we've settled into kind of like what we want to accomplish musically.
All right, Joe. You can listen to Dummy anywhere on any streaming service, but the best way to listen to Dummy is on Bandcamp. Is that right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Great. Now, what's the Bandcamp link? Because there's another Dummy band out there.
Yeah, it's www.notdummy.bandcamp.com.
All right, Joe. Where can people follow Dummy on social media and whatnot?
Not the only one we have is Instagram. It's just Not Dummy at whatever the Instagram is. I don't even know what the link is.
I think it is at Dummy. At Not Dummy.
Yeah, I think it's at Not Dummy.
And the Tone Bursting blog, where can people find that?
Oh God, tonebursting.blogspot.com. I wasn't prepared for that. Sorry.
All right, Joe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.